Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Gunn Show podcast VIP edition. What does VIP mean? Well, in most cases, it's kind of fun. We're here in South Florida at Podcast Junkies. There's drivers that pick people up from the airport. There's delicious drinks and meals and paid for flights and paid for hotels. And there's a whole lot that goes into what VIP means because you, my friends, are all very important people, and we want to share your story on this show. If you're tuning in for the first time, what took you so long? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to give you a hard time. Thank you for being here is what I really want to say. So thank you for being here. However, if you did tune in because Gunn Show, as I'm missing it on my shirt if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, I totally pointed my finger in the wrong direction on my shirt. But the Gunn Show is all about humanizing manufacturing. There's a lot of podcasts out there that are talking about really technical subjects, and I give a shout out to them as well. You know, round of applause also. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And we can and sometimes do get very technical in manufacturing on this show. However, we've realized that manufacturing is a darn near invisible industry. I mean, everything around us is made by manufacturing, and it's not really recognized. So how do we connect with that audience out there by becoming more sexy and more fun and more enjoyable? Well, we humanize that mother. You know what I mean? We have some fun with it. So I have a really great guest today, which I'm not going to introduce quite yet, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So if you have enjoyed this so far, please stick around if you showed up for, as I pointed earlier, the Gunn Show for guns, like shooting guns, or muscles, which I don't have any of. So if you're tuning in for those, it might or might not be about that today, although my guest, he's got plenty of muscles, so we might talk about it. All right, let's move forward with Bad Joke of the Day. Benjamin is replacing Christian this week. Again, Christian, please feel better soon. We miss you, buddy, but we're happy to have Ben. All right, Ben, I actually have 3 bad jokes of the day because you liked it so much last time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody likes my bad jokes. Maybe leave it in the comments for me. All right, bad joke of the day. You ready for the first one?
Ready.
What do you call a bear with no teeth?
I don't know.
A gummy bear.
Ah.
All right, number 2. What do you get when you cross a polar bear with a seal?
Ooh, I don't know.
Just a polar bear. The seal is dead. We actually got a real laugh.
That's good. I like that.
All right,
Good.
third one. It's not really one you have to answer, but you know, I have a couple of kids, and I've spent a lot of time, money, and effort child-proofing my house. But those darn kids, they still get in. All right, 3 bad jokes of the day. This is an MTDCNC production. We appreciate MTDCNC for everything you're doing. Check those guys out. Obviously, I'm a part of MTDCNC, but YouTube, the website, mtdcnc.com. We obviously have every channel, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, which used to be Twitter, Facebook, whatever your preference is, go there and check it out. We believe that we are the leading channel in the world for agnostic and unbiased viewpoints on manufacturing to bring you all technology from around the world, the true global channel that really travels around the world to find those answers and solutions for you and bring them to your local channel. All right, we got to thank our sponsors as well, 3 great sponsors. First sponsor is AMT. We're getting excited about IMTS. I know I say this every show, but it doesn't mean that it's less true just because I'm saying it all the time. IMTS is going to be awesome this year. September, if you're outside of this industry, head to Chicago. I'm going to try and bring Ben and Christian with me. So thank you, everything, AMT, what you're doing, AMT. IMTS Plus, a cool little video section, not little, big video section. And EBITDA Growth Systems, what I say every time, if this is your first time tuning in, something so fascinating, whether you are a shop that's trying to grow or a shop that exists and is thriving but still trying to grow, they actually have a guarantee that says when they come in and help you out within 3 years, they will double your profits. So whether you're looking to grow the existing company or sell your existing company, just doubling profits would be pretty cool, right? So EBITDA Growth Systems, we just released a 3-episode trilogy of Shop Rescue, which is so cool with Priest Manufacturing. Super cool kids there, Nick and Tanner. All right, now, we always like to talk a little bit about the games because we want you to stick around to the end, which shouldn't be a problem with my guest today because he's far more entertaining than I am. But we are playing 3 games today. 2 truths and a lie. You guys know I never get it right. If you've tuned in and this is not your first time, I'm always wrong. I've only gotten that game right one time. I'm not good at this. The second one is industry jargon, and the third one is would you rather. So I have talked long enough. It is time that you guys hear from somebody, anybody else at this point, right? So please welcome my longtime friend, James Sabatino, sales engineer at Marbini Citizen Syncom. Welcome back to the Gunn Show, my friends. This is the VIP edition. James, it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. And you have not changed that epic beard since last time.
No, I've not. I think it's coming a little bit more since.
It is, it is. Thank you for being here, first of all.
My pleasure. Thank you for
How was your journey down?
It was a little long.
Yeah?
Some delays, but we got here.
Did you get delays?
A couple times.
Well, we won't shout out who you flew with. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're in South Florida. You're based in the Northeast, right?
That I am, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. When'd you get here? This morning? Last night?
I got here last night.
Yeah? And how's it been so far?
It's been good so far.
Florida treating you well?
Besides the heat.
You don't like heat?
Not too much.
You are in the wrong state.
That's why I'm from New England.
Yes. Okay, what's your preferred temperature?
Probably like 60 degrees.
Like on a regular all year long, if you could have 60 degrees, you'd be happy.
I mean, you never get that in Massachusetts, but yeah, that's what I'm after.
No kidding. I was actually in Russia not too long ago, and a gentleman over there, he's like, if it ever gets above 50, I'm sweating, I'm hot. Like
Wow.
he likes it around there, and he lives way up in St. Petersburg side, where you get the white nights and everything.
Sure.
So anyway, super cool story from him. We'll dive into Russia another time. James, I am so happy to have you here. You have family here in Florida, which I think you may end up getting to see if we're lucky enough,
tonight.
right?
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. Although we could talk about your family today and all the discombobulation if it's anything like my family, but we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about your journey, your story. We're going to stick a little bit to manufacturing and then trickle around those areas just for fun.
Sure.
You and I met a few years ago at East Tech.
That we did.
You want to tell that story? We before we pressed record, we told a little bit of it to Ben, our producer here. But if it's okay with you, I'd love to share how you and I met because
absolutely.
It was very circumstantial.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So let's share that story, and I want to hear your perspective, and then I might interrupt you from time to time on my perspective as well about that day we met at East Tech.
Yeah, that sounds good. So jumping into it, it was East Tech of 3 years ago, and at the time I had probably only been with MCC for about 2 years, so I was a relatively new employee. I was one of our applications engineers, even though I'm a sales engineer now. And I think that East Tech event helped me get to the sales engineer position I have today. And we were standing in front of one of our latest Mianos at the time, B&E 65 MYY.
Great machine.
Very good machine.
Yeah.
One of my favorite machines to work on. Done a few projects with customers on them. Can't say enough great things. But it was a new machine at the time, all the bells and whistles, and we wanted to partner with you to get a video out there and start kind of expanding our social media.
Well, let's be fair. Some wanted to partner, and some were still learning about how social media works.
Sure.
Right? So we kind of had to prove ourselves that day as well, right?
Yeah, it was a tipping point for the company for sure. But I'd say since then, looking back, everything for MCC has just grown exponentially for social media and just an online presence. So it was great across the board.
Yeah, and if we're gonna go ahead and bring that up as well, and we talk about Brian, and I think it's fair to offer credit to someone and to all the industry in our industry who hadn't done modern day marketing, always been traditional marketing, and has decided just to stick a toe in or stick a foot in and just see what it's all about. So quick shout out to Brian and the team over there.
Definitely.
Just for allowing us to give it a go. So I'll let you pick back up, but I had to do that for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So we had to do this video in front of a machine, and at first it was going to be my current boss, Mark, who was going to do this video. And Mark was the one that went to Brian and said, no, Brian, I really think you should have James do this. But at the time, Brian, our president, I was a 2-year-old employee at the time, so we hadn't met too much. He maybe heard about me through the grapevine, but no firsthand accounts with him, really. So he was going out on a limb a little bit and trusting the guys underneath him, my boss, Mark, to listen to his advice to have me do that video instead of Mark. But
it's good that we trust our coworkers,
definitely,
right?
You have to. You have to
I
trust
didn't know that part about the story.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
cool.
cool.
So someone else was supposed to do that, and it was, I think, the night before at a dinner that it was established I'm going to do that video. And that's when the green light was given for me to do that with you. And I think it went well, and I think that video got a good amount of views. And it was definitely nerve-wracking. It was my first time going on camera doing something like this, like we are today. Of course, I have half my company standing around behind the cameras looking at me. And I think at the time, too, Brian, since he didn't know me too much at the time, he dragged a chair up right behind the camera. So then the pressure's really on because the president's watching you and you're a new employee. Everything's being recorded. So didn't want to do anything wrong. But retrospectively, I think it went really well. And that video definitely was a tipping point for me in my career with MCC, because I think that's what gave me the recognition that I might be a little bit more than just an engineer for the company, programming our machines, helping our customers. I think that's what kind of set the stage to let me move into the sales position that I have today.
Yeah, a couple things I want to bring up from that is pressure bust pipes, pressure makes diamonds, and you are one of the more extroverted engineers, I think.
I appreciate that.
And what I've learned traveling around, filming with people, working with people, the great opportunity to work with MCC and a lot of other great companies out there is that we call it a sales role, but often we were actually had Darth Vader here one time, and we turned it around and we were like, welcome to the dark side for sales, right?
Sure.
And we turned it back around again because the stereotype or the stigma is the dark side, right? You're in sales, and then you get that whole used car salesperson, and we're not like that.
No,
and what
not
I've realized that we have some really intelligent people in all aspects of manufacturing, but some of the best quote-unquote sales folks come from the engineering technical side of things. So to be able to sell something because you understand how that part's being made, because you understand the technology, the flaws and the successes of what can and can't be done to truly help a customer. And when a sales guy comes into a facility, any company whatsoever, and says something like, I would love to help you, but there's another machine that can do this job better, there's an instant relationship where you're going to sell probably the next 20 machines there when the job does fit.
Sure.
And that type of background like you have, I think you're brilliant for the position, so congratulations.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate that. And sales has been really good so far, because when I was in applications and I was an applications engineer, I was working closely with the salesmen, going to pre-sales visits with their customers. And one thing I want to say is MCC, we are a distributorship. We do have 4 offices in the country, and only 2 of our offices are direct sales to the states we represent. So I'm from our New England office, and we cover the New England states. We have a California office that covers California. And aside from that, though, MCC does have a dealer network. So not everything about MCC is direct sales of our product to our customer. A lot of what we do, majority of what we do is supporting our great distributor network that then supports our customer. And we're just more here in the background. If the distributor has a problem, that's when we step in and we give them the direct solution to the problem. But stepping back to being in applications, it was a fun role because I was able to get a new piece of machinery, and generally speaking about our equipment, Syncom, Swiss machines, and Miano Melturn, there's some higher end equipment. So it's just every day walking into our showroom and working on a customer project. That was a privilege in itself. But then when you get the real world aspect of it, of this customer is making this part for the aerospace industry, for the medical industry, or for whatever it is, even if it's a small job shop where they're making their own product that they sell their customers, they're making a big investment into a piece of equipment that's going to take their industry to the next level, their business to the next level. So it was really fun being in applications and getting to be on that pre-sales visit with the salesman to make sure it's the right machine and accessories for the job at task. And then from there, when the contract signed, the machine's on our floor, getting to develop that process and then make the machine just kind of dance, making that part, and then bringing the customer in for training, explaining to them how it was programmed, how that part's being made, how to comp the machine, and then deliver it to them. It was it's just like a soup to nuts package that takes that customer to the next level, makes them comfortable with the equipment that they purchased. And generally speaking, all our distributors treat their customers like that. It's not just MCC New England where we give this very good concierge service. It's a lot of our distributorship network does a great job supporting the customer, because at the end of the day, if you're buying a high-end piece of equipment, you need a high-end level of support that comes with it.
Yes, and sometimes that's the disconnect. So you guys educating all of your partners is extremely important. What I'm going to do, James, is I'm going to ask you how you even got into manufacturing in just a minute. But I want to talk with Ben and every audience member out there who hasn't had the opportunity to really be in manufacturing. And if what James just described, I'm going to break something down real quick. I've had the great opportunity, James, as you know, to spend time with some of your customers. In fact, I'm flying out again next week to spend some more time with them. Yeah, your technology, the people are always so happy. But what I want to describe to Ben and the audience out there who's learning about manufacturing, where something like a Miyano can really help people is imagine that this room, this space that we're in, Ben, and let's say this space is a 40 by 40 space, and you need to make a certain amount of parts, and you can only fit 5 machines in here, and those 5 machines are each doing their own specific process. And at the end of the 5 machines process, you get a part, and that part could be anything on this table, anything you want it to be, really. Just imagine that part has been created from raw stock to that finished one after the 5 machines have been run from 1 operation, 2 operations, 3 operations. Well, what something like a Miyano machine does is it takes all of those operations, puts it into one machine, so it's less setup time and breakdown time on each of the machines. You've now freed up the entire space to put more machines in, to do more diversity. Also, you're reducing overall setup cost and tooling costs on every single machine, and overall cycle times are reduced because you're not having to move anything. And oftentimes, as you learned about yesterday with CMM rooms about measuring and quality, there's less chance for a mistake if you don't have to move it from machine to machine to machine. So a lot of what James is talking about, that soup to nuts thing, right? Being able to do something for a customer from beginning to end. The whole manufacturing industry right now is fighting for real estate and figuring out how we can be more cost competitive on a global scale without having to raise our prices, because our prices are going up on material and tooling and all that stuff, but you can't raise it on the top end because then nobody will buy it. They'll run off to somewhere else where it's less expensive. So how do you reduce those costs? Well, it's by maximizing floor space and doing it all on one machine and creating less costs within your own place. So now that I've said all that and enjoyed and really enjoy being an advocate for your company, MCC, how did you get into this, James? Were you born in diapers running around a machine shop like some folks? Was it accidental? Do you just love numbers like I never did and now I do them every single day? How did you get into machining?
So, I not necessarily from diapers, but definitely at a young age, I got exposed to manufacturing. You know, in my family, my father and 2 of my 3 brothers, they work in manufacturing. My dad is a service manager at a very large machine shop up in New England. They do a lot of electric boat and aerospace type work, so very high-end level machining. And my dad's their service manager, so I always grew up hearing stories of my dad fixing a machine that was wrong, calibrating a machine. And from a young age, I started to learn how accurate and precise machining can be. You know, you hear people say, oh, I'm off by a hair. Well, a hair is 3 thousandths. And for some of the tolerances of the parts in that industry, that's 30 times the allowable tolerance. Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy, right?
So right from a young age, that definitely interested me. And so I grew up always hearing about my dad fixing things, seeing my dad fix things. Every now and then on the weekend, he'd bring me into the shop and I could look around at all these massive machines. And maybe I was in middle school at the time or elementary school even. I had no idea what any of this stuff was, but it was cool. And I could see these machine parts kind of laying around everywhere. And it put it on my radar. And then my brothers followed suit and they went to work with my dad at that same company and learn under him, which is a really good career to be in. And unfortunately, the service side of things is definitely a dying breed. Not as many people want to go in and learn how to fix and calibrate things. So it's definitely cool to have that in my family background. But then aside from that, I was the black sheep, I guess, because I didn't necessarily want to fix the machines, even though I will from time to time. I wanted to program them. I saw all the YouTube videos of machines dancing, moving around, cutting parts, and I wanted to do that. So that was always of interest to me. And then when I was in high school, I had a really unique opportunity where just through a local connection at the high school, I got this internship when I was maybe a junior at a local defense contractor where they did a lot of firearm work for the public, but also for the military. So it was this cool opportunity where I got to go and intern at this company, and I met my best friend today, the best boss I'd ever had at that company. So it was just, I definitely got lucky that the place that I ended up at first was such a monumental step in my manufacturing career, because when I was at that shop and being in high school, I had the opportunity to work under this guy named Dave Hughes, who's a lifetime mold maker, and mold makers in and of themselves are a really high-level designer because everything in the molding industry is perfect. There's no tolerance, and so he truly understood how a part was made, had numerous patents to his name, being able to design all these really unique molding accessories or just innovations in that industry. And I got really lucky that at that internship, I happened to get placed under that engineer. And he said to me, listen, I will teach you everything I have to know about machining. I just don't want you to ask the same question twice, and I want you to come into work every day and be ready to work. And I kind of laughed at that because I was like, what do you mean ask the same question twice? And later on down the road, I learned when all these other interns started to filter in, you could kind of see the ones that could make it or not make it, the ones who would go to Dave and say, Dave, how do I indicate this circular round stock on a Bridgeport? So he'd show him how you move the X and Y with the indicator, sweep it, get it on center. Some people can pick it up like that. Other people, it just...
Ask a question twice.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Dave didn't like, because he was... Not only was he teaching some of the interns, but he was also running the R&D department of this company. So he was actively designing on the computer with SolidWorks for the next product for this gun, for this weapons manufacturer. So he was a busy guy, and it was really a treat, and I was really fortunate that he was going to delegate some of that time to take a high schooler who knew nothing about machining other than the premise of what it was.
How old were you at this time?
I was probably, I had my license, so I was about 16, 17 at the time.
Okay.
Yep. So it was a cool opportunity because I was in high school. I was getting to go to this machine shop after school and learn under this guy who was willing to teach me everything. And that's a big part of where I got today, because from a younger age, I got to learn all these key details. We would sit together on SolidWorks. He would teach me the basics of SolidWorks. He would have an idea of the next thing we wanted to R&D, but he would make me drive on SolidWorks and do all the CAD side of things to draw up this part. And then he'd walk me over. The first machine I ever ran was a Bridgeport, like many people. So a little manual machine. And that's when you really get to understand feeds and speeds, because if you have something wrong on either your feed rate or your cutting RPM, you could feel it trying to crank that handle that the machine is not happy. So it was a cool opportunity because not only would we design on the computer, but then we'd walk across the shop to a Bridgeport and just start machining down our part. And then we might take it to the lathe and do a lathe aspect of that part. And then sometimes, I knew I was green. I was on SolidWorks. I designed something like an interior square corner, which everyone in machining knows can't be made, or if it can be made, it's going to be made very expensively. So I probably spent a whole day designing a part that had a couple key features on it that were non-machinable. But Dave, he would just sit quiet, and he was over my shoulder knowing exactly what I was doing wrong, but it was a learning opportunity. So
that's incredible.
We'd finish the CAD, we'd make our blueprint, and I'd walk right out and start to make stuff, and I'd get halfway through the part, and I'd go back to Dave and be like, Dave, how do I do this? And he just starts laughing. And he's like, remember this moment, because anyone can draw something on the computer, but not anyone can draw something in a way that's easy to be manufactured. And that was just kind of like just a light bulb moment right there.
Yeah, so true too.
Yeah, and that's what, kind of sidestepping a little bit, that's how 3D printing is helping our industry, but not helping at the same time. Because yes, it's taking over some of the parts that can't be machined, that can be made out of plastic or some of these laser sintered metals. Sure, that geometry can be 3D printed, not CNC machined, but at the same time, it can give engineers the sense that, oh, I drew it on the computer.
It can be done.
I can make it on a 3D printer. Why can't I CNC machine it? So,
well, because you have a spline going like this through
exactly.
a part, and no drill tool's gonna do that.
No, or just a very expensive 5-axis mill maybe. So,
right.
I got really lucky that just from high school, I was able to learn under this guy who was willing to show me everything and teach me the fundamentals of machining. And I really liked it. Everything about machining was fun. It was interesting. It was a nice environment of a shop to be in. We had this R&D side of the shop, which had Bridgeports, proto-tracks, a couple little lathes. But then on the production side of the shop, they had really advanced mill turn machines, and that's where the company really cranked out their product. So it was cool because I was on the simpler side of machining, and then on the other side of the wall, all the advanced stuff, the done-in-one aspect, twin turret, twin spindle machines were just cranking out parts. And Dave looked at me, he's like, if you stick with this and you keep doing well, you can be programming those machines. You can be designing new parts that run over there for us. So that was right from a young age.
Incentive to grow and learn as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything was right in front of me. And I'll admit, not everyone gets that opportunity. Sometimes you can intern at a shop that'll teach you how to run a Bridgeport, and that's it. That's where you'll stay. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what that does is it at least gives you the opportunity to learn the basics. And from there, if it's not the right company that'll grow you, there are hundreds or thousands of companies out there that will grow you and will bring you to the next level. So anyone who does find themselves in that position, I definitely recommend to them, just stick it out, learn what that company has to learn. But if you don't see a path for growth to become a programmer, to become a setup guy, then don't be afraid to look around, because it's a good industry right now for the workers, and you can definitely get a pay bump moving to another company with added opportunity of stepping up in your career.
I did research for my next opportunity because I wanted to write a book. And I came across this statistic that 70% of small business owners want to fund their retirement through the sale of their business, when in fact only 20% of them actually had a saleable business. And it broke my heart anticipating the fact that baby boomers, there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and in fact it was a train. And so I really wanted to do something about that. So I wrote a book called Scaling the Exit. The purpose of the book was to articulate a strategy for small to medium-sized business owners to increase the value of their business to the extent that they could actually sell it and fund their retirement. And that was really the first iteration of what became EBITDA Growth Systems and our brand promise, which is to double the valuation of small, medium-sized businesses, specifically in terms of an exit, but double their valuation, or we give them their money back.
So I totally agree. Now, Ben knows this about me. Every time somebody speaks, my brain just shoots out in every direction with more questions. First thing I want to bring up is, you know what I was doing at 16?
What's that?
Skipping class and thinking I was going to be a professional soccer player.
Sure.
So you're kind of like the LeBron James of manufacturing.
I don't know if I go that far.
Straight to the NBA at 16 years old, right? I think
Maybe
he was
with the
18. Yeah, right. Maybe with the beard part. But that's fascinating. One thing before we segue into another question I want to ask you, Ben, does human hair seem small to you? Just one hair? Does that seem like a small piece of material that maybe making some of the parts on this table trying to attain to the dimensions of the thickness of a hair? Does that seem small?
Yeah, it's a pretty small, I would say.
And yet that's thousands.
Yeah, 3,000.003 inches
of dimension of let's say space for everyone to understand, tolerances away from a lot of the things that we have to program and make around the world. I mean,
that's unbelievable.
The diameter of hair is more or less 2, 3, 4 thousandths.
Yeah,
your beard's probably about 4 thousandths, 5 thousandths.
Definitely helps.
But we all consider, a hair being very, very small. But a micron is, I mean,
fractions.
Fractions. I'll bring a chart for you at some point. And my editing guy Joe Amos, if you could actually, for those watching on YouTube right now, throw up that chart. I'll pull it up for you if you need me to, of the circles where it shows what the diameter of a hair is and then what a micron is, and it breaks it all down in a couple other spots as well. Really fascinating.
For reference on that, just to piggyback, a common tolerance that we work with in our industry with our customers on Syncoms and Mianos is 2 to 5 tenths. 2 tenths is definitely tight. There's a lot you have to do. You have to work for that tolerance. The machine does a lot to help you, but you still have to stay on top of things. But,
sure.
2 tenths, so 1/10 is a 30th of that hair if it's 003. So just the fact that there are 30 tenths in what a hair is, and to say, yeah, we're plus or minus 2 tenths, we're plus or minus 5 tenths, it really shows how tight of a tolerance that is. And some of the parts we do, you hold them for too long, and the heat transfer makes that part expand. And it's like, well, why is it good on the machine and bad in the QC room? It's like, well, it's 70 in the machine shop, it's 60, and it's on a piece of granite in the machine. So
yeah, I was just at a machine shop doing a factory tour, and they said our entire shop is climate controlled because of that I mean, you hold. To be. And what fascinates me is the capability of machines like yours, where thermal expansion of running something 24/7, it's still okay.
It is,
because a degree of temperature is going to change it by a few microns.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the math that goes. This hot room we're in right now, as the AC is broken, would change the temperature of all the parts sitting around here.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to what you said, and I'm going to ask you about a pivotal moment. We kind of started the conversation off where you might not be where you were today without that interview getting into sales.
Definitely.
But I want to ask you about a pivotal moment in your career journey. But before we get to that, I want to go back to your point of the ability to learn and grow within this industry. And it's important that the people out there understand if they're feeling stagnant. Like, I would rather say to people out there, don't stagnate your employees, give them an opportunity for growth, because I also would recommend that someone leave a company if they're feeling stagnant and don't have an opportunity for growth. We should spend time on the manual machines, learning the vibration, the purr of how it sounds and feels good, but there's only a certain amount of time we should remain there. We should go back to it from time to time. And James, you're so right. This industry is growing and thriving, and we want people. And much like yourself, people are so willing to spend time with a younger generation and teach them and mold them, because it shows the desire that we love what we do, first of all, and secondly, we want more people to be involved in it. So I completely agree with you, and that's kind of a cool journey that you got to be on. So
definitely.
And who was the owner of that company, the guy that trained you? Let's shout out to him real quick.
Dave Hughes was the
Dave Hughes,
was the engineering manager.
So Dave Hughes, thank you for doing that. I hope you're still doing that
Yes.
and training people. Thank you. We appreciate that. All right, I want to ask you about, as you've gone along this journey, something that's been pivotal. Man, my words get jumbled up sometimes, but I think it entertains the audience. I'll probably leave some comments, talk about how I can't talk. That's okay.
Blame the heat.
Yeah, it could be. But a pivotal moment, do you have one in mind that has kind of been that turning point in your manufacturing career, or even in your life? But we'll start with manufacturing.
Yeah, so it sounds like a cliche, but really the pivotal moment for me in my career was starting as an applications engineer for MCC, because I had the background of being a machinist, being a programmer, being a setup guy, and I was more isolated into a machine shop. And when I started working as an apps engineer with MCC, it showed me, oh, I get to represent the territory of New England now. And in the bigger picture, I'm a part of this company that represents the United States. So for me, it was the opportunity to learn that manufacturing, as much as I had thought about it in that time, was just isolated to Massachusetts or New England. It really is a worldwide industry. It's a global industry. It's big in the United States. So for me, when I started working as an apps engineer and got to travel New England, supporting customers in New England, seeing all the different shops, seeing how different people apply their equipment to make a part that I might have looked at the time, go, man, that's a little tricky to make on that machine. But then being there, seeing how they were doing it, the fixturing they were using, and it all kind of clicked. So really for me, the opportunity to leave a machine shop and be a part of an organization that covers not only the world, but the United States, and my focus on the state of Connecticut as a sales engineer, that was a turning point for me in my career. That's when everything was like that aha moment for me.
I can actually empathize with that as well, because I'm not like you in the sense that I accidentally got into manufacturing and knew zero about it. Like I said, I was skipping school and playing soccer. I thought I was going to be a professional athlete, and found myself in a machine shop, and I knew nothing. And as these years went on, to see the broadness of what it creates, totally eye-opening. And I hadn't thought about that being, an epiphany for me. So thank you for bringing that up for me. I'm going to do something real quick, Ben. I'm going to throw you on the spot again, just to name a couple of things in your life that you like. Do you like your phone?
Yeah, I like my phone.
What about your car?
Yeah.
Yeah? What about this studio? You pretty proud of the studio?
Yeah, I'm pretty proud, yeah.
Anything I haven't named that you kind of like in your life that you'd like to bring up?
I like music.
Music?
Yeah.
Yeah, you use any instruments?
Drums. All the time, yeah.
We made all of it. We made all of it. So that's kind of what I want to do. Something else I want to do, James, is shameless name drop. I love shameless name drops. What role has mentorship played in your manufacturing career? I want to know maybe what you're giving to others now and what was been given to you. We've already mentioned Dave, of course, and we'll give another shout out to Dave. Thank you again. But let's do some shameless name drops of people that have helped you, and maybe people that you're currently helping that you see something in to help them grow as well.
Sure. So obviously we've talked about Dave, and he was the one that gave me the technical background that I now have today, and helped me get where I am. But then when you kind of think about getting to Citizen, there I am. I'm an apps engineer, and I'm new to the company, have to learn the product. So, another apps engineer that was there at the time, a couple years ahead of me, Zach, he very talented, knows how to run these machines at another level compared to a lot of the apps engineers that I work with.
Zach is brilliant, by the way.
Zach is. You've worked with him.
I have worked with Zach, yeah. Brilliant kid.
And actually, Zach is Dave's son, my first boss. So Zach and I first met at that machine shop, and then he went to Citizen. I was at a different shop at the time, and that's when he brought me over to MCC. But it's important to have good friends that are close in age to you in this industry that you motivate each other and you want to work off each other to just really go to the next step, to stay interested, to kind of look at something that someone might say, no, you can't do that, and then to have that tenacity to go, no, we can get that done. I'll show you how we can make that. And that's who Zach is as an engineer. And him and I definitely feed off each other, and we help each other be better engineers, and he helps me be a better sales engineer today. So definitely have to shout out to him for all his help and how I've grown in this industry. And then aside from that, I would have to drop my current manager, Mark Carlson, because he gave me that opportunity to be with you at East Tech and to have this opportunity to be here today. So
he approved this one as well.
That he did, him and Brian.
I like it. Yeah, I got an email back from James that said, green light, exclamation point. I was very excited that you were going to be able to come onto the show. So
definitely.
May I also say thank you to everyone involved in that. So I want to kind of segue from that, a small little question going into, because I wanted to see if there was anyone that you're mentoring currently, but we'll just leave it broad and go, is there any advice you'd like to offer people who consider entering manufacturing? I mean, just a couple of days ago here in the podcast, we had a couple of random young folks come into the studio, and they weren't expecting to hear about manufacturing, but they heard the podcast. And they actually stayed all the way to the end,
That's
surprisingly.
pretty cool. That's good to see.
And I was like, what? We were entertaining enough to someone outside the industry that they stayed? So that was cool. That was really cool to see that we were doing something that was inspirational. What kind of advice would you offer someone maybe who's 16 right now, skipping class, thinking they're going to be a professional athlete that might not make it, like myself?
Well, step one, don't skip class. Not worth it in the long run.
I had a great fun jumping in the river, rope swing. I got in a lot. To be fair, I did have to go to summer school in order to graduate on time. So please listen to James and not me. Don't go just skinny dipping and swimming, skipping class. Do what James did. He's smarter.
Yeah. Well, MCC, we are growing as a company, and we are bringing on junior apps engineers or application apprentices. So we already have some newer people in our office that all of us get to work with and help bring up to the next level. And to people like that, or to people who are, they're running a small machine cell at a machine shop and just making parts, and they might be wondering, am I going to do this my whole career? Am I just going to be walking in this circle running parts? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Find the more senior person in whatever company you're at. And more often than not, if you just ask them, if you see them do something on a machine or in the industry that you think is cool or you don't know how to do, ask them how they did that. Ask them how they learned to do that. And chances are they're going to be happy to tell you. They were probably in the middle of a rough day, or they're just trying to get through their day, and everything's monotonous. And if some younger person comes up to them, excited, interested, and says, how do you do that? Can you show me how to do that? That's huge for a person like that. And in return, it's big for the person asking the question, because like I said, more often than not, they are going to teach you. They are going to work with you, mentor you. So don't be afraid to ask the question, to say, how do I do that? And definitely always think big picture. Whatever role you're in, don't always think that that's the role you're going to have for the rest of your career. You have to expect to grow, and you have to be excited to grow and learn new things. So
I think that's great advice. And also do it sooner rather than later, because this boomer generation that we all love is leaving.
There's a wave of retirement.
There's a wave of... Yep. We're becoming the old wisdom folks, aren't we? Who thought we'd ever be reliable? Well, maybe you, not me. Who thought I'd ever be... Far. But we do have younger generations coming in, and there's an older generation. That's why our labor shortage and all that stuff. So ask questions. That is great advice. Ask questions. I'm being conscious of our time as well, and I have so much that I want to learn. The time flies on this show, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels like
almost 40 minutes.
We only just started. So I'm going to kind of combine a couple of these questions, which I'm certainly curious about as well, which is, can you describe a project that you're particularly proud of?
Sure.
But I'd like to combine that with another one of the questions here, which is, what is your most challenging project, and how did you tackle it? So if you could combine those two, I think we'd be able to
I like it.
to answer that, right?
Definitely.
Let's do it.
So the project I'm most proud of is, again, a project from when I was at MCC, and it was this part that we were doing out of oxygen-free copper for an existing customer. And this customer was making this part, and anyone who doesn't know oxygen-free copper, C101, the Kenomel guy I worked with on this job said it best. It's bubblegum. It does not want to chip. It just wants to make strings, bird nest the tools, and those were all the problems that our customer came to us with. and said, listen, we're making this part. It takes us 15 minutes to make the part. We have to have an MO in the cycle before transfer to go in and clear chips off tools and boring bars to then run it. So really that 15-minute cycle could potentially be 16, 17, 18 minutes if the guy running that machine isn't there the second that MO hits. So that company's production level wasn't where it needed to be.
I can honestly say I've ripped apart some tools with that same material.
It's horrible.
Due to that exact
It's nightmare fuel.
point. And well done, Kennametal guy. Who was the Kennametal guy?
Mike Gibney.
Mike, yeah, you said it correctly. And I've definitely broken some tools by wrapping up some,
Yeah.
I played that game.
So that was a really fun project because the sales engineer for that territory had sold a customer my favorite machine, the B&E 51 MYY, that machine from East Tech. So
Love it.
this customer went from making this part on a single turret dual spindle machine to making it on our B&E platform, which is a twin spindle, twin turret, a dual Y-axis lathe, and it also gives the ability for the superimposition that Citizen's known for, where on a 2-turret machine, we can have 3 tools in cut because our sub-spindle's on independent X and Z axis. So those videos where you see the machine dance and so many things going on at once, this customer made a big jump in technology. So sure, we had the machine behind us to slash cycle time from getting an extra tool in cut wherever possible. But the other aspect of it was developing the tool paths for this material. And at this time, I had no experience cutting copper. I had cut plenty of aluminum in my past, along with all the other difficult to machine materials like Inconel and some of the heat-resistant superalloys, but never had I cut oxygen-free copper. And I thought, okay, it's like aluminum. It's soft. It's fine. It's
not the same.
No, it's not the same at all.
Not the same.
So Mike Gibney and I, we worked together for, I don't know, maybe almost 2 months straight on our showroom floor, just doing test cuts. He was bringing in all different grades of inserts and coatings and just different edge geometries, different edge preps. I was definitely playing a little bit on the programming side of things to get creative with my tool paths, and even for my turret arrangement, to how I was putting tools on the turret. I didn't want to have a boring bar under my rough turn tool because all those big turning chips that were falling down would latch on the boring bar.
Smart.
So it's not just the tool and cut you have to think about.
Location?
Exactly. It's the order of all the tools on the turret.
Sometimes even the weight of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this project was really tough because it was a material I hadn't ever cut before. There were big expectations from the customer because they bought this high-end piece of equipment to make this part more efficiently. So there was definitely some pressure on it where I had the numbers in front of me of we're making it in 15 minutes and we have to open the door every cycle to clear chips off. And by the way, we've been cutting this part for about 10 years. So here I am thinking, you guys have all the tribal knowledge. You know the tricks to this. How am I going to do any better? So again, an opportunity where working with a coworker, bouncing off ideas off each other was huge. Mike and I had a lot of collaboration on that part for how to make it more efficiently. And at the end of the day, we had the part running in about 5 minutes. It was 4.5 to 5 minutes, and we did a mini runoff on our floor where we let the machine run for about 4 hours straight and minimal chip buildup on the turret. So this customer went from one part every 15 minutes with the door open and close every single cycle to we can let the machine run for 4 or 5 hours before we have to think about knocking down some of those tricky chips.
Can I give you a oh hell yeah high five? There you go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, we're sliding into the next question, which I believe is actually going to come from this one as well, which is, and I'm looking at this right here, what role does customer feedback play in your manufacturing process? Because that story,
huge.
I would imagine going from one process to the other process after 10 years and needing to open the door that much and having those complications on bubblegum material. Speaking of, platinum was my Achilles heel that I had to learn from.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there's another gummy one. What does that feedback from the customer mean? I can only, I feel like I have the answer to this as well, but I want to hear your answer.
So right off the bat, feedback from the customer is huge. You want to keep them in the light on the project. You don't want to squirrel away anything that you're doing. So having an open relationship with the customer while you develop their process is huge. It makes them feel like they're contributing and that they're not going to be blindsided by anything when the machine hits their floor. But even still, you have to play off their tribal knowledge. Don't be afraid to ask that question. Like, what are your struggles when you make this part? Tell me where you guys fail. Give us a direction that you want us to focus on for you. So feedback's big in the sense that you have to be willing to ask the question, where do you guys struggle, and let us help you do better. But then
not coming in like we know everything.
Definitely not. You can't have that attitude, and the customer will see through that. And especially if you don't ask the questions and you don't know that this certain chip buildup on a boring bar is the issue, and then you're going to struggle with that same problem too, and you might waste weeks until you figure out that that is the issue. So
and by that time, they may have found somebody else to help them with that issue, right?
Exactly. You could lose the sale, or you can just kind of ruin that relationship. And relationships in this industry, everything. Yeah. It's such a small industry, as big as it is.
As much as we make,
yeah,
we kind of know everyone, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. So feedback's huge. You have to listen to your customer and ask them where they struggle and what you can do better. Run ideas by them and say, we're thinking of doing this. Are you guys comfortable running this type of tooling or making these changes to your process? And then at the end of the day, once you deliver the project too, you have to kind of sit back for a week or two, and then you have to follow up with them and say, well, how is it? And are you guys seeing the same results we had? Did something change after install? So feedback is everything in this industry. You can't just take a machine order, ship a product to a customer, and then close that door and not come back until they want to buy another machine or innovate something else. You have to stay relevant with them and check in all the time to make sure that your equipment and your process that you developed is living up to what it's supposed to be. So.
Rumor has it that decades ago it was ship a box, let them figure it out on their own.
Definitely.
It is not that way anymore. There's just so much technology, and we're growing so quickly.
Yes.
We have to be a team.
Definitely. You need to have good coworkers, and just the companies as a whole, all these OEMs, not just MCC, they're growing up their applications crew to have a better support network. So I think everyone across this industry realizes that support is everything.
We have to, yeah.
Feedback is huge.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, in order to give the right support, how do you personally keep up with finding out where, I mean, other than MTDCNC's channel, obviously a shameless shout out. I had to do it for myself. But other than MTDCNC, how do you learn about the latest and greatest technology? How do you make sure that you're on top of things so that your customer can be on top of things? Because they might be head in machine, not able to visit all the trade shows or able to go onto the YouTubes or whatever. You know, they're trying. We're all trying. But I would imagine part of what people lean on you for is that insight that they might not have had time for or might not have been able to see on their own. How do you find the latest technology?
Hi everybody, Amy Teal, CEO and co-founder of Shop Floor Coffee, proudly a women-owned business that's supporting the manufacturing community.
Mike Franz, CIO, co-founder of Shop Floor Coffee. Thanks everybody for tuning in to check us out. Amy, tell us a little bit about Shop Floor Coffee.
So we're here to give back to the manufacturing community through purchases of coffee. So every purchase you make, we donate a portion of those proceeds back to help workforce development initiatives.
We can't tell you how much it means to us to help support the great manufacturing community. We've been involved with it for like 20 years, and we know there's issues around finding good people, finding people that really want to be involved in the industry, and we want to start by giving back to that, giving back to the programs, getting kids involved with these awesome programs. There's robotics, there's computer software, there's so many cool things involved with the industry that people just aren't aware of. We want to help raise that awareness by giving back in a little way that we can.
And really we came up with the idea of Shop Floor Coffee because there are two complaints on a shop floor. It's the coffee and the toilet paper. We can't do anything about the toilet paper, but we can help you get better tasting coffee on your shop floor while helping the community. So shopfloorcoffee.com, come visit us and support the community.
That's a good question. So really, for me, the biggest thing is the innate interest in what we're doing in this industry, and that I go to work every day and I'm really excited about what I do. So there's an inherent passion that I like machining, I like manufacturing, and also pulls off one of the previous things I said about having worked with my best friend and being able to both bounce off each other. And if I were to pull out my phone and kind of show you my Instagram messages with Zach, it's him and I sharing machining videos from, like, whether it's a new tool from a Mugi or a new end mill from Kenamel or Sandvik on a stress test that they were doing. For me, the biggest way I stay up is just using social media to my advantage, following all these different companies like MTDCNC, following all the different tooling companies, work holding companies, other machine brands. For me, it's just I have that interest and I like what I do. And even when I stop working at the end of the day and start to relax a little bit, say I'm on my phone, even what's on my phone is about manufacturing. So for me, it's just, I guess
your hobby and your work is the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm lucky because not many people can say that, but I wish more people could say that, but for me, that's the biggest thing, is that I have the genuine interest. I have a friend that I can constantly share things with. I send him something that's cool. He sends me something that's cool. So that's how I typically stay on top of things.
I'm just going to take this moment to look at the camera, and even if you're not in manufacturing, the point I'm going to make does not matter, and it goes off of what James just said. Whatever you're doing in your life, find a passion and pursue that. Money will come. Don't go into work every day miserable. We'd like to believe in manufacturing. You can find some love here, and we want you to be a part of it. But anything, don't just go into work miserable and go home miserable and potentially take it out on your family or even yourself. I mean, my mirror is my most difficult enemy. But love what you do. Find a passion and pursue that. That's kind of the message I just kind of want to transcend.
Definitely.
I mean,
I agree with that.
You and I have a passion and a job that a hobby and a job, a passion and a job that we both love, so it doesn't feel like work all the time. But for everyone out there, any industry, whether it's medical, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're into, pursue that. Money will come. Make sure that you're happy. Life is short, right? I have one last question for you.
Let's hear it.
Before we go into these games. And this is probably the most, well, you like all questions. You're really good at this, by the way, James.
Thanks,
but this was kind of a more free-spirited, open-minded question. It's the last one I have. If you, my friend, could have a manufacturing superhero power,
Oh, boy.
what would it be? And then we'll play a couple of games.
Sure. So I think for that one, it would be to never crash a machine. I think everyone could speak from experience. They've made a mistake. They've fat-fingered an offset. And that's one of the biggest, that's what really hurts your confidence the most, is you made all this progress on a part, on a setup, and then you fat-finger that input, or you just do something stupid because someone was asking you a question at the time. So if I had a superpower in this industry, it'd be to never crash a machine.
I think that's fair. Leave in the comments if you agree or what your superpower would be. I'm not mad at that one. I make jokes about myself oftentimes of my machining career, talking about, I crashed machines, and that's all true. I have. But because I was always trying to do something epic or speed things up, and failure comes with learning. I mean, it also comes with, being top 5% in the world of understanding how to machine platinum and being in 3 different industries of woodworking, precious metals, and steels and Inconels and all that fun stuff. But yes, in order to truly learn, I've done that. So I wouldn't mind that superpower. Do I still get to learn from my mistakes if they never crash?
That's a good question. I think there are other mistakes you can make, though.
With never crashing. Yeah, that's a hard one.
That is a hard one. That's the worst one.
Physically and emotionally.
Yeah, definitely. It's a kick in the gut for sure. So I don't wish it on anyone, but it happens. Everyone in this industry is going to crash a machine, and it's an opportunity to learn. So the only reason I know how to align a Miyano machine, align a turret, is because I've done something stupid with that turret and hit the bar stock inadvertently or hit the spindle. So at the end of the day, look at it as a positive, because if you don't crash a machine, you're never going to learn how to properly align a machine. And at the end of the day, that makes you a better apps engineer. It makes you a better sales engineer for your customer.
May I share a super quick story with you?
Sure.
About crashing
Please
machines?
do.
So when I was running an apartment at a jewelry place, a precious metals place, and the department was anniversary bands.
Okay.
And I had a few people in my department who loved to change a proven program. They knew that they knew, quote unquote, they were making it better.
Yep.
Right? But for some reason, every 3rd, 4th day or so, there'd be a crash. And I had to walk over to the machine and go through the program, read the line-by-line coding. And I would just look at the person. It wasn't me. Shaggy came out. It wasn't me. But at the same time, it's amazing how well a CNC machine listens to you.
Definitely.
It's very rare that you tell it to do something and it won't do it.
Nope, it does what you say.
It's very obviously someone was making changes to the program. So it's okay to crash it, but at the same time, sometimes I'm like, dude, just go with what it's doing, man. We've already fine-tuned this machine.
We've crashed it to get to where we're at
right.
now.
We've already done that hard work. Don't crash it again. All right, you ready? 2 truths and a lie.
2 truths and a lie.
I'm going to give you a moment to think about it. Maybe I'll be a little bit long-winded. Maybe
Please do.
Look at the camera with a stare. Are you guys watching? Yes. Okay. James, did I give you enough time yet? You can make up. I mean, I never get it right anyway. And in fact, we played a game just the other day where we played 2 truths and a lie. They gave me 2 lies and a truth. They played the game all wrong. So even if you don't do it right, it doesn't matter. We can just have fun with it.
Yeah.
It was crazy. At the end of the game, and get this, 2 lies and a truth they gave me on the game, 2 truths and a lie, and I still got it wrong.
Sure.
I picked the one thing that was the truth out of the 2 lies. I'm terrible at this game. Did I give you enough time yet?
I think we're good.
All right, let's go.
All right, 2 truths and a lie. So 3 things here. Let's start out with this one that I genuinely think Syncom Swiss machines and Miyano mill turn machines are the best bar work machines on the market. Another one.
Obviously, that's your truth,
I
right?
hope it is. My management would be looking at me if I didn't.
All right, don't let me interrupt you yet.
Let's see. Another one is that I prefer to program our machines by hand. And what can we do for a third one? I've never called out a day of work.
Ben, what's the lie?
Ooh. I think the second one.
I'm going to go with the third one. So I think he does like to program line by line and read through the coding based on what he learned a long time ago, but I think he's called out a day of work. And you think he would prefer to use like some sort of software or something instead of going through a 10,000 line program, right?
Yeah,
it's a lot of reading, let's be fair. But, you know, I started on floppy drives. We couldn't get to 10,000 lines. We had to do a lot of sub-programming in order to make that machine work.
Sure.
Which one is it?
It's never called out for work.
Yeah.
You got it. Whether you're sick, you need a day off, you need a break in this industry.
Yeah, we do.
So
we're given those days as mental health days. Even we deserve them.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone needs a break. You can't work 6-7 days a week all the time. You need some downtime. And even Monday through Friday schedule, stuff happens in life. So don't be afraid to take the time off if you need it. It's there for you.
Well said.
Yeah.
And also, as someone who's learned line-by-line programming, I'm with you. It's kind of cool to go through the coding, right?
And in all honesty, for me, with this equipment, our machines are pretty advanced, and there's a lot going on at once. And it's not that it's a distrust for the CAM system. I use it when you have to. You can't program everything by hand. If you want a dynamic mill tool path, full depth of cut with an M mill, you can't program that by hand.
It'd be tough.
The CAD CAM. Exactly. You could do it. It's going to take you a couple weeks.
It's not worth it.
No, not worth it. But at the end of the day, when you program something by hand, you have a better understanding of what's going on in the machine at all times. So when an alarm does come up, or if a potential crash is going to happen, the fact that you're there, you know the steps leading up to how the tools approach their cut, it's huge for being able to safely prove out the program. And at the end of the day, you know it's going to be the most efficient as possible because you've controlled every movement of the turret or the spindle. So
yeah, and I would also say that is in places of our industry a lost art at this point, where CAD goes to the machine, an alarm goes off. It could be just without a crash, right? But an alarm goes off, and you have to find that one person who can go through the code and figure out what went wrong.
Yep, exactly. Even if it's something incidental, like your machine was in feed per revolution, or you programmed like it was on feed per revolution, but it was feed per minute, so your cut was way off what it should have been. And then you crash the tool and you look at it and you're like, I don't know, it looks like the code that would make it cut, but if you don't know what G96 versus G97 is,
one number away.
Exactly. That's you have to know your G&M codes in this industry.
All right, you ready to play a couple of Would You Rathers?
Sure.
All right, so for the audience, if you're watching the first time or if you've caught one of the episodes where we didn't play this game, because I always give options of about 7 or 8 different game options, Would You Rather is sometimes pitching two opposites against each other, and we get to decide, and a lot of times not the perfect world or scenario, which one we'd rather do. I actually have 40 of these bad boys. It's to try not to repeat when we play this game with other people. What's your first favorite number, James?
First favorite number, 24. 24
it is. Would you rather be a part of a team that manufactures the tallest skyscraper or the longest bridge?
Ooh.
That's kind of cool, right?
That is a cool one. I've got a fear of heights, though, so I don't want to be on that skyscraper.
Well, you're just helping design it. Maybe you're not at the top.
Fair. I don't know. I'd go for the longest bridge.
So you're not jumping out of planes with me is what you're saying?
Definitely not. You can do that one on your own.
Some of those bridges get pretty high, too, you know.
They do. Still closer to the ground than a skyscraper, though.
Okay, so a bridge over a building.
Definitely.
That's pretty cool. I think bridges are fascinating as well. I mean, buildings can be as well. Don't let me take from that. But, yeah, some of those bridges that I've driven across in all parts of the world, it's like, how did you... In fact, I was just on a swinging bridge in Vancouver.
Really?
A huge gorge across one side to the other. And it was done like in the late 1800s for some people who came. And I was thinking to I was watching the fascinating old footage and the audio of how they were, you know, building this thing. And it was truly like, how did you do this over 100 years ago?
Yeah, that's impressive.
And we're talking, I mean, we're talking the length of a football field. And the whole thing's swinging back and forth. And let me tell you one last thing about this little bridge. One of the larger trees, and if you know how big trees get in the Pacific Northwest, one of the larger trees fell on it during a storm and it held its ground.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It's crazy. It was so
That's a cool story.
All right, second number.
Second number?
Pick your second favorite number.
73.
Well, to 40.
Huh?
1 through 40.
Oh, 1 through 40. Let's go 33.
33. Let's see if we can get as good as the last one. Would you rather have the ability to create products that can last a lifetime or biodegradable products that are environmentally friendly?
I'm going to go with a product that lasts a lifetime on that one.
Yeah?
And, at the end of the day, it helps the environment because you never need to replace it. So I think it kind of checks that box.
And let's go ahead and check the not harmful to the environment too,
Yes,
right? We're just
definitely.
making it last for the people out there.
Exactly. To me, it sounds like there's fun engineering behind it to make that stand
How are
out.
you going to sell a second one?
I don't know. I guess I'm a bad salesman.
It lasts forever.
Yeah, it lasts forever.
Customers happy though.
Exactly. They're going to need more of them. They're going to expand.
That's right. That's right. All right, we'll do one more of these. You're between 1 through 40. Third favorite number.
3.
Number 3 it is. All right, let me scroll back through here. Would you rather have the ability to instantly diagnose any machine issue or be able to fix any problem with just a basic tool set?
I'm going to go with diagnosing on that one.
Yeah, I think so too, actually.
Yeah, because I've found myself in that position of customer had an alarm on their machine, and even to us, to MCC, it was kind of weird what was going on, and we burnt a lot of time kind of chasing down the wiring, going through the ladder, looking at what was going on that piece of equipment, and that's time I would like to have back. So I'd like to be able to diagnose something like that.
I do not blame you, and I would choose that one as well. All right, we're now going to switch over as we're closing down on our time here with industry jargon. This is a game where we take incredibly complex things and break them down for people like Ben. Wait, that's not how this game goes. For people out there who want to learn a little bit more about sometimes in areas where we talk about coding and decimals and areas that just don't make sense to my 17-year-old, 16-year-old me, right? So, all right, we got 1 through 30 on this. We're only going to do a couple of these, but this is a fun game as well. Favorite number that you haven't picked yet?
5.
Number 5. What is just-in-time production? Imagine explaining just-in-time production using a cooking show scenario.
Oh,
and if you don't want to do cooking show, just tell me what just-in-time production is in its simplest form.
Just-in-time production, cooking show.
You don't have to do that part if you don't want to. That does make it far more difficult.
That does, I'm not a chef.
And I can't cook either.
Yeah, I'm not one for the kitchen, so I would butcher that. So let's see, just-in-time, for that one, I'm going to say just making that deadline. You're under the gun and you got a lot of pressure on you, and so just getting that job done as soon as possible. So ASAP. We'll boil it down to ASAP.
And I would almost say that one's not so complicated. The answer's in the question.
Exactly.
Just in time means just in time, folks.
The harder part of that was the cooking. Maybe not burning a meal or something. We'll compare it to that.
Yeah, okay. We're in the kitchen and we have 10 tables we need to serve in the next 5 minutes for a wedding, right?
Exactly.
That's just-in-time production.
Just in time right there.
All right, second favorite number, 1 through 30.
Let's go with 18.
18 it is. Ooh, you'd probably be good at this one.
Let's see.
Although I give a quick shout out to my friend Pro Shop Paul over there for my ERPs. But what does ERP stand for and mean? Explain expertise resource planning as if it were a school. No, you don't have to do that. Just ERPs. How do ERPs help people and what do they actually do?
So I'm going to be honest and say I don't know what the acronym of ERP stands for.
I'm going to look it up too because I'm with James and I don't know what ERP stands for either.
I come across ERP softwares and, it helps you organize your product and your customer base, kind of like a CRM, customer relationship management software. I can tell you what that one means.
There you go, yep.
But ERP I'm going to put right up there with the CRM where it helps you stay on top of things and it helps you kind of manage your task load, your job, your part numbers. How'd I do?
You did great.
Perfect.
You did great, but you want to know what ERP stands for?
What does it stand for?
Enterprise Resource Planning.
Interesting.
That does make sense, doesn't it?
That does make sense.
Yeah. I only ever just call it ERP, and I know what it means, and I know what it does, and I talk about it. But this is good, because I'm getting ready to go film with
now I just learned something.
With Pro Shop, so we're all educated at this point, right?
Educated.
Well, my friend James, you are off the hot seat at this point. You have answered all of our questions, but before I close this thing out, we didn't do a toast at the beginning. We've given a couple of shout-outs. I'm going to give you an opportunity to either give some sort of toast to a message to anyone you want to give it to, or the opportunity to give a couple more shameless shout-outs, whatever you want to do.
Sure.
A closing statement of your own. We're drinking the Luwak coffee, which for those of you who don't know what that is, it's absolutely delicious. But if you are struck by the stigma of it coming from a luwak animal, you know what that means, then don't be, because it's absolutely delicious, yeah?
Sure. So I'm going to toast to having coworkers that help you be a better worker and a happier worker. So
that's a great way to end this. I will cheers to that as well. For those of you who are not watching and only listening, we have to make it. But, real quick story. I was told, please put this in the comments if it's true or not true. When I was in Japan, you know how the culture when you drink your noodle soup is to go, when you eat your noodles, it's respect to the chef, right? But do you know how it got to that?
I do not.
The story I was told, and maybe someone was lying to me, however, if they're lying to me, it kind of made sense as well, is before there was TV and they only had radio advertising, how do you make something sound delicious? Well, if I'm eating these noodles, I gotta make it sound delicious. And then that cultural understanding of making it for the chef to say thank you to the great culinary diligence, we ended up continuing to do that.
That's pretty cool.
Let me know if that's real or not, but that was what I learned when I was in Japan a few times. That's what I was taught. They could have been fooling me and playing a game, or it could be real, but that's what I learned. All right, James, thank you so much for being here. You're an absolute pleasure. For everyone who has joined in on this episode, we absolutely appreciate you as well. Time is the one thing we cannot manufacture. Just about everything we manufacture, time is not one of them, and we appreciate that because time is the most valuable commodity that we have. Thank you for being a part of MTDCNC and the Gunn Show. James's journey, an incredible human being. And we will see you all again soon. Tune in next week as we release another epic episode of VIP Edition. VIP. Yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Tony.